Going for the debutant, Timothy Castagne. Uh, Made the breakthrough, got into an advanced area, but he just looked comfortable and accomplished throughout the game. What a way to start your career at your new club. Like I say, it was the vital point of the game. What he was doing up there, I'm not quite sure, but a lovely dinked ball at the far post by Dennis Pratt, who I thought was also a big influence out there today. And what a pleasing way to make your mark on your debut. And some good performances all round there. Room for manoeuvre, without a doubt, room for improvement. But you can't say too much wrong with a 3-0 victory on the opening day of the season away from home, can you? What a great start to the season for Leicester City.
So, guys, we hand back to you in the studio. Everyone is smiling here at the Hawthorns, full-time. West Bromwich Albion 0, Leicester City 3.
Thank you very much, James. I think it was summed up perfectly there by Matt Elliott, wasn't it? A fantastic result for Leicester City. Welcome back to a new look Matchday Live for this season here on LCFC TV. We'll be with you for around about the next half an hour or so. I'm Dan Bates. Jerry Taggart is in the studio alongside me. Tony Cotty joins us via Skype, and Matt Elliott will be with us from the Hawthorns. Jerry, we will start with you though, and we just said quickly while we were off air there that that's a fantastic result, isn't it, for Leicester City? Opening day, 3-0 win, 3 points. It's all smiles for Leicester City.
Tremendous result. There's been a bit of negativity been swung around the club in the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, whatever it is. And the only way to get rid of that negativity, Dan, is to go out and put in a performance like that. I think the one person you need to ask about that result and that performance is probably the person who had the least to do today, and that was Kasper Schmeichel, because that second half performance was as commanding as it gets. And in the end, it was like a training game. West Brom were giving up the ghost. It was simple as that. Leicester were passing the ball at will, no pressure whatsoever. And Leicester just took the wind right out of their sails.
Yeah, how good was that, Tony Cotty? How happy will Leicester City be with that 3-0 win?
Well, I think everyone connected with the club should be really happy with that, Dan. It was, it must have been a joy for the fans to watch at home. I certainly enjoyed it, and it's a fantastic result. Sometimes you get the result and not the performance. Sometimes you get the performance and not the result. But I think there was a little bit of everything in there from everyone today. As we said earlier, I think the first 20 minutes it was dominated by West Brom, but after that, I thought West Brom were poor. But the reason that they were poor is because Leicester were very, very good, particularly in that second half. They totally dominated the second half. They made West Brom look poor. There was some really, really good individual performances. And to cap it all off with the 3 goals as well, it was just a really, really good day. And I'm sure Brendan would have gone to sleep last night in his hotel room dreaming about winning 3-0 at West Brom. And he certainly got his wishes come true. It was a great performance.
Matt, you were on Matchday -2 this week, weren't you, on LCFC TV? And your prediction was 1-1. And I think that's maybe what a few Leicester fans might have thought, due to the fact that it was a rushed pre-season, players were off internationals, and you maybe expected it to be that way. That's why you predicted that, but it couldn't have gone further from that, really, at the Hawthorns today, which is probably another reason why Brendan Rodgers and all Leicester City fans out there will be so delighted with that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it looked like a tough task in the early stages, didn't it? And I thought Leicester would do well to get something out of the game, really, the way they started. But you should have confidence and faith in them, really. They certainly did for themselves. I mean, James and on commentary, mentioned about Soyuncu saying, stay patient, don't panic, because a few people were sort of making moves out of their normal zone of play, if you like, and it was all getting a little bit ragged. Soyuncu, fair play to him, he's like, hey, calm down, just keep doing, trust the process, if you like. And they kept sort of trying to come up with a different solution, because the 3 in midfield wasn't being effective early on, but all of a sudden they started getting space and finding gaps in the West Brom rearguard, and they started looking effective from that moment onwards, whether it was Perez, Barnes, Pratt, or Vardy. was becoming more of a threat and convincing in the second half. And West Brom sort of ran out of ideas. Early head of steam. That was it, really. There was no sort of plan B. They couldn't adapt to Leicester once Leicester got into their stride and rhythm. And it was pretty impressive all round. I thought they were going to be a sterner test than they proved to be, West Brom, and they'll be hugely disappointed. But we're not really here to focus on them. We'll look at Leicester's performance, and they've not put things straight a little bit, but I think there was an element of sort of scepticism about how the season would pan out. People are not generally as hopeful that they can repeat the achievements of last season, maybe with hopefully a better finish. But there's a little bit, I think Leicester are going to struggle this season, maybe. But that performance would have boosted not just the supporters' hopes, but the players themselves, because there's still good players to come into the team as well. But to get a resounding, convincing victory like that, clean sheet, 3 goals, looking dangerous, more dangerous the longer the game went on. It was a good all-round performance, wasn't it? A great way to start the season.
Absolutely. I think what you often see, Jerry, in games like that, particularly against teams that have just come up from the Championship, is obviously they sit in, but as soon as Leicester got that first goal, it meant West Brom had to come out more, didn't it? And that was where Leicester then really started to have some joy going forward.
I think we seen it in the second half of the first half where they got the passing going and there was gaps appearing. But definitely once the first goal went in, I'm not saying that West Brom down tools, but they just did, after that first 20-minute spell that Tony's just talked about, they didn't really have any answers. They had no cutting edge. Let's be real, there's going to be sterner tests coming up pretty sharpish as well. But to go out the first game of season away from home, come away with a clean sheet, the keeper probably still has to do a warm up after the game because he's probably gone stiff, a little bit stiff, Casper, in that second half. It's a great performance overall, a fantastic result. Your main man's on the score sheet twice. Your new debutant scores and has an absolutely fantastic game. I thought he was an inch today, Timothy Castagna. So all round, and even people like Harvey Barnes in the second half, at times was electric and showed that for, Jamie Vardy's second penalty. So overall, fantastic.
Yeah, let's talk about Timothy Castagna, Tony, because as Jerry said, on debut, what a way to mark your first start for Leicester City with a goal like that, with a clean sheet, importantly, obviously as a defender as well. And that first goal was very much made in Belgium, wasn't it? Pratt with the ball in, Castagna with the header.
Yeah, and I think Matt mentioned about Pratt. I thought he had a decent game. I thought in the first half, there was signs that he was sort of, coming into the game. And what I liked about the best part about the goal was, when Pratt gets the ball, he plays a lovely 1-2 with Justin. And when he gets to the byline, it's a great skill from him, but it's a technique that you don't see too much in the game nowadays. Like you see players getting to the byline, and invariably they'll check back or they'll just smash it into the near post or whatever. But it was just brilliant skill, really brilliant skill. He just dinked the ball up, and Castagna's arrived from I don't know where, and his header, he showed real sort of effort to get in front of the defender and power the header in. It was a great header. But I love the little dink up from Dennis Pratt because it's not something you see too much nowadays. It was a wonderful, wonderful chip. But credit to Castagna. He done everything right. You dream about your debuts. You always want to impress. You always want to do things right. But he not only had a very, very steady game, he just got more and more involved in it, more and more confidence. And, to round it off with a debut goal, he'll take great pride and credit from that, and hopefully he's going to settle into the team this season. Whether that is at right back or left back, we'll have to wait and see once the players come back from injury. But he's going to be a real asset to the football club, that's for sure.
Yeah, brilliant performance all round, not just from Castagna, of course, but from all 11 Leicester City players. Over the course of the next 20 minutes or so here on Matchday Live, hopefully we'll get some post-match reaction from the Hawthorns. We also want to hear from you guys at home. Get involved with the show using the hashtag LCFC. Tell us how happy you are with that result and who stood out and impressed for you. A number of you have already got in touch with us. Canadian Foxes says, things you love to see. Castagna scoring on his debut, Jamie Vardy scoring against West Brom, and James Maddison back on the pitch. 3 very good things there for Leicester City. Stuart says, well, I have to say it was a pleasing game. Second half, we came out like a different team and were ruthless. Castagna looks really good as well. That's made my Sunday. And finally, one other message. We've got the first 20 to 25 minutes aside. That's as good as I've seen Leicester City play since early December. Absolutely cruised through that second half with slippers on and a pipe on the go, yet scored 3 and could have had more. Jerry, what do you make of those 3, particularly that last one? They said, yes, apart from that first 20 to 25 minutes, Leicester were really good and one of the best performances since December. Do you agree?
Yeah, it was controlled. Again, once they got into that, their passing game halfway through the first half, they looked comfortable in the game. And, we were all talking about, hopefully it's just a matter of time before they break the deadlock. And it was. And okay, it was from an unlikely source. But that's the way Brendan likes to play, getting his full-backs involved in the game. And Timothy Castagna, when you actually watch it, he's on his way. When that ball gets rebounded back out to the edge of the box, he's actually turned back and started jogging back towards his own goal. He then realises that we've controlled it on the edge of the box and recycled it out wide. So then he says, well, I'll tell you what, I'm in a load of space here on the right-hand side. I'm just going to creep in at the far post. And rightly so, as Tony said, special mention to Dennis Pratt. That is a great ball. I'm not saying it's the only ball you can play, but if you want to cause the opposition problems when you're on the byline and you've only got a split second to make a decision up, then that is the ball you have to play. You have to dink it to the back post. Obviously, you need to get enough pace on it so it beats the keeper. There's a chance of coming for it, and he does it everything exactly right. Credit to Castagna for getting himself in there, and that's a really good challenge as well. He had to be brave to go up and win that header.
2 goals already for Jamie Vardy in the race for the 2020 to 2021 Golden Boot in the Premier League. Matt, you were there, obviously, both the penalties. When Jamie Vardy was stepping up, was there an air of expectancy around in the press box near you? Did everyone just know Jamie Vardy was going to score both of those penalties?
Oh, you fancied him. You could see how focused he was and determined to finish the game off for Leicester initially with the first one. It was tucked right in the side netting, wasn't it? No keeper is going to get anywhere near that with pace and precision. And the second one was a little bit of mind games, wasn't it? You always a little bit of a worry and a bit of a guessing game from the goalkeeper's point of view. And can he get in the penalty taker's head? But Vardy was having none of it. He was looking at the ground, focused, knew what he was going to do, and I think I'm right in saying it went straight down the middle, didn't it? Because I didn't get a chance to see it.
Absolutely not,
Yeah.
Matt. It couldn't have been any more in the corner of the goal.
What, the second one?
Yeah.
Have you got your glasses on,
Mate,
Matt,
it
today?
looked to me like he did. Oh, that went the same side, did it,
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm right in line with it as well. Right, no, it was hard to see. I'm at a right angle to the
Have you been watching Britain's Got Talent to see what they do on screen?
Yeah, and that Nicholas Pratt played well as well, didn't he? But anyway, he smashed it in the back of the net. The keeper's gone the wrong way, and it was, pretty emphatic, wasn't it? And to answer your question, Dan, no, I think there was an air of inevitability about it. Not for one iota did you think that Jamie was going to miss, and a brace. It's got him back on the goal trail, hasn't it? And everything's rosy all of a sudden. Not that there was any cause or need for doom and gloom, but there was, as Jerry mentioned, a bit of, just little bit of sniping here, and a little bit of concern about the lack of players coming in. Loads of different little factors. How has the COVID affected the club in the sort of economical sense? But that performance today, for a number of reasons, has put a few worries to bed, hasn't it? Certainly for the short term.
Tony, I know previously you've spoken about penalties, said they were never your favourite thing to do when you were a player, but to score one penalty obviously is hard enough, but to score 2 in one game against the same goalkeeper, how difficult is that? Because suddenly the mind games become double, don't they? Does he go the same way? Does he change it up? But Jamie Vardy, as Matt said there, I think he said it anyway, both in the same corner. It was
He didn't say
comfortable in the end. I was being nasty.
Matt Elliott did not say that.
Well, if anything, Dan, the second penalty was better than the first. I mean, the first one, he sort of all the way along the ground. It was precision just inside the post into that bottom left-hand corner as he was looking at the goal. And then, of course, when the second penalty is given, you're then going to start questioning yourself. You start thinking, right, what do I do now? What's the goalkeeper going to do? What am I going to do? And I think the main thing in that scenario is to just forget about the goalkeeper. It's just to get your head down and concentrate on what you're going to do. I actually said to my boy, I said, he's going to put this one down the middle. But, well, if you Matt Elliott watching the game, he did put it down the middle, obviously. But no, I mean, he actually connected with the second one much better than the first one. It was again right inside of the net, and it was a brilliant finish. The best thing I liked about his first penalty though, Dan, was, I don't know whether you guys picked up on it, but once they'd done the celebration, Jamie gave it one of them. He cupped his ears as if he was celebrating with the fans behind the goal, saying, like, you can insult me as much as you want, I'm still going to score a goal, even though you're not here. You can. And I just thought that was really, really good, and it shows that he was focused on his game, and also I would add as well, he wasn't that involved in the matches. There wasn't There wasn't that many chances for Jamie. He didn't influence the game as much as he would have liked. So when you get that penalty, it makes it even more important, because you know that you're not going to get too many chances in the game, and penalties are a great way of just stacking up the goals. And the one thing for sure, he will want to defend that Golden Boot this year. It's not going to be easy at all, because there's some great talent in the Premier League, as we know. But you've got to take your chances. And when you get them 2 penalties, you score them, it makes a big difference in terms of the goal tally.
Yeah, let's talk about Jamie Vardy then, Jerry, and that goal celebration. I think we half expected to see it, didn't we? We were expecting to see what he would do if he was to score and celebrate like that. And to do that just sums Jamie Vardy up, doesn't it? It was a great moment. And 5 goals in a row away from home at West Bromwich Albion. That is a ridiculous record.
Yeah, as we spoke about it before kick-off, that the fans just won't leave him alone. They keep having a bit of a snipe at him, and when fans do that, invariably he scores. And the first thing he does is he goes up, and he gives them some back, and rightly so. And I suppose it was a way of letting the fans at home know that they're all at home or in the bars or whatever watching the game, and they're still cursing him and giving them stick. So it was his way of saying, well, I know you're watching this game, I know you're giving me stick, so here you go again. And he just cups his ears.
It's a terrific record, as we've said, for Vardy individually, Jerry, but for Leicester as a club to do that, to win 5 on the bounce away at West Brom, a relatively local rival. I think we've just lost Matt there, so hopefully we can get him back. Is a ridiculous record. Yeah,
fantastic. And, it's still a curse hanging over the head of West Bromwich Albion Football Club that they just can't seem to get rid of, whether there's fans in giving them stick or not. And, it's not the first club that Jamie Vardy has a hold over, whether it's home or away. So, again, the guy, he just keeps going, doesn't he? He's just an absolute phenomenon for this football club.
How pleased will he be, Tony Cottee? We spoke before the game about first games of a new Premier League season, how you approach it, how players will be nervous, how fans obviously will be nervous, but players want to do their jobs right. And if Jamie Vardy already has got 2 goals now in the Premier League, it's not something he has to worry about if he maybe doesn't score in the opening 1, 2 or 3.
No, and I think that first goal of the season is always crucial, Dan, because if you start going 4, 5, 6 games, and it happened to be on a few occasions, you just get frustrated and you start questioning yourself, thinking, when's that first goal going to come? And that invariably can rub off on the team as well, because as the main goal scorer in the team, you're taking the main responsibility, and you've got the defenders and the midfielders are looking at you thinking, come on, Jamie, we need you to score a goal now. But that's not the case this season. It's the best thing to get that goal in the first game and get off and running. It doesn't matter if it comes from a penalty or it comes off your backside or whatever. It doesn't matter. Just get the ball into the back of the net. They all count the same. It all counts as a goal. And Jamie will be absolutely delighted. And as we touched on earlier, he would have expected that. I'm sure if you if you'd have interviewed him after the game and he hadn't scored, he would have said, I'm disappointed, I'm devastated I haven't scored because I always score against West Brom. So he would have expected that. And he just had an air of confidence about him. And when he put the ball down on the spot, I just expected him to score. I'm sure Jamie did. And again with the second one as well. But, it is so good for a player's confidence, particularly the main goal scorer, the main man, to get that, to score in the opening game is always a real confidence boost for everyone at the football club.
Yeah, we won't have Matt Elliott anymore, I'm afraid, for the final 10 minutes.
So we've had a result in, Dan.
Yeah, we'll trudge on, the three of us now. Elsewhere, LCFC women were in action today. They kicked off at exactly the same time as the men. Unfortunately, the result wasn't quite as good as the men there. They drew 2-2 away at Sheffield United. Natasha Flint scoring a penalty in the last minute in that one to ensure a draw away from home. So well done to the ladies there. Jerry, just talking again about Jamie Vardy there and getting those 2 goals. Do you think that Tony said he talked about wanting to defend that Golden Boot? Is it something that's already in Jamie Vardy's head that he wants to defend that?
I wouldn't know, but Tony would know better than me. I didn't know that was a thing, but obviously it is. And I'll just go back to the clip it showed before the penalty, and it just showed you a headshot of Jamie Vardy and the focus that was on his face. He wasn't looking at the keeper, he wasn't looking round at the other players, or he wasn't looking at the referee to say, hurry up, blow your whistle. He was just subtly focusing on the ball and what he was going to do. So that should answer your question, really, whether or not he's bothered about trying to retain or defend the Golden Boot, because obviously you've got to get yourself in a mindset. The game's going on, things happen at a pace, but when it comes to taking a penalty, the game's stopped, and that's when you have time as an individual to think about what you're doing. And you just see Jamie concentrating on the ball, just running the play through in his mind, where he's going to put it, making sure his run-up that we've seen. He's obviously practiced those penalties because, we've talked about the position that he's, of those 2 penalties in the same spot, literally in the same part of the net. So you can probably, I can probably tell that he's been practicing a lot in the off-season. So that would probably... But as regards to defending his Golden Boot, just that focus and that mindset before he took that penalty should tell you all you need to know about Jamie Vardy means business this season.
One thing we saw, Tony, particularly last season with Brendan Rodgers and Leicester City, that quite often they went in at the break either level or behind, and in the second half they would come back into the game and invariably win it. And we saw that again today, that at 0-0 at half-time, nobody in Leicester Blue panicked, or in Leicester Maroon today. None of them panicked, did they? They took their time, they were patient, they trusted the process, and they came away with that 3-0 win in the end.
Well, there was good signs there, Dan, wasn't there, towards the end of that first half? As we said, West Brom started the game well. The second part of the first half, though, there was good signs there. Leicester had all the chances. It was 3 or 4 chances, and it was one of them that when you go in, I think the only slight problem sometimes can be the half-time whistle. When Leicester was gradually getting on top, gradually creating chances, and that sometimes that half-time whistle goes, and you go in and everyone sits down for 10 and 15 minutes, has a cup of tea or whatever they do nowadays, and you just think that sometimes that the momentum can be lost. But I felt when the players were walking off, and we spoke about it at half-time, and I expected Brendan to have an easy team talk, because you could see that the performance was coming. You could see that the chances and eventually the goal was going to come. And there was no need to panic. There was no need to make changes. He didn't make changes, until he brought James Maddison on. So Perez came off as well, didn't he? So it was coming, the performance. I don't think that there was any need to panic. And you don't win a game in the first half. You don't. Sometimes you can be 2-0 up at half time and still lose the game. So it's not about always that first half performance. The key performance is always, and always will be, is the second half, because that's when the game goes into a different phase. The match gets stretched, players get tired, players get injured, etc. And that's where you want to come good. So I think from that point of view, it just shows what a professional performance it was from Leicester, how good the performance was from Leicester. They made West Brom, who are a very good championship side that come up, and they'll give a good account of themselves this year. Leicester made them look very, very ordinary, and it was an excellent performance.
Yeah, fantastic performance for Leicester City. A 3-0 win for Leicester. All Leicester fans, I'm sure, are very happy. One fan group in particular, I'm sure, will be very happy. Leicester City playing in the Premier League. You know for a fact that the New York Foxes will be tuning in. They've got in touch. They've said 3-0, 3 points, 3 Foxes heads there at the Football Factory in New York with the hashtag LCFC. So they're obviously very happy. That's how you get in touch with us here on Matchday Live. Just use the hashtag LCFC. Jerry, I think that... Go on.
No, I was just going to say, we should do a game from there.
Yeah,
Let's
I like
go,
that.
Takes.
Whenever it's possible, I think we should
Exactly.
actually do a game from that bar in New York, me, TC and Matt.
What, and I'd be stuck here, would I?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair.
You may not see us for a couple of days afterwards, but hey-ho.
Tony brought up one name there in James Maddison, and now he came on, he had, what, 20, 25 minutes, didn't he? And nice to see him back again, wasn't it?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. You know, he's one of our best players. He's one of our most creative players. And as good a job as Dennis Pratt did today, in that role that Maddison would normally take up, then you've got to say that, you know, James just in that position has that little bit extra, that little bit of stardust, if you want. And so when he's out of a team, and when you want to play football the way Brendan Rodgers wants to play, then without James Maddison, it's going to leave a massive, massive hole. So great to see him back, not before time, and slowly but surely, you know, momentum, like it has done with that result today, getting Maddison back, then we get Johnny Evans back, hopefully, and then Pereira back, Ricardo Pereira. And, you know, if we get all those 3 players back on form, playing regularly, then, you know, things are looking good.
Dennis Pratt, though, did a brilliant job in that midfield, obviously set up the goal, didn't he, Tony? And I know a lot of the comments on social media that have been coming in from Leicester fans have been praising the job that Dennis Pratt did in that midfield today.
Yeah, I like him as a player. You know, I said that earlier. I've been impressed with what I've seen. I think there's a real talent there. I do feel for him because sometimes, or a lot of the time, he's been coming off the bench and been asked to do things, and that's never easy for a player. But I mentioned about, you know, taking the opportunity, seizing your chance before the game, and I think he did that today. I really do. I think he had a really, really good game. I know James Maddison is hovering in the background, but if you've got someone like Pratt who's on his game, then it gives the club the time to bring James Maddison back. I mean, the one thing that we don't know about the severity of James's injury. We don't know the comeback. We don't know what the fitness coaches are saying. So if your team is putting in a performance like they've done today and you're winning games, it gives you the luxury of, you know, you've got Dennis Pratt performing. It gives you the luxury of then bringing James Maddison on. He came on last 16 minutes. He might well start as a sub against Burnley next week. He might come on for the last half an hour. They can gradually, and then there's the Carling Cup, you can gradually ease the player back in rather than doing what you used to do in the old days. Oh, yeah, he's fit, and just put him on the pitch and he comes off injured again after 30 minutes. So that worked well from James Maddison's point of view. With regards to Dennis Pratt, you know, the ball's in his court. He played really well today. Like I say, beautiful chip for that first goal. And his overall contribution was good to the team. And he was one of many positives from this game for Brendan Rodgers.
I think that's something that Brendan Rodgers will be so pleased with, Jerry, isn't it? That he knows he doesn't have to rush James Maddison back because he saw the role that the 3 midfielders did today. And a word really on Mendy as well, in that role, as in the holding role. I guess what you want to do in that position and that role is not to be noticed. And that's what happened with Mendy today. He just went about his job, didn't he? He won the ball back when he needed to and didn't try anything extravagant.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think when you're playing in that role, it's about knowing your strengths. And I think, you know, Mendy is, you know, coming to terms with that. And I suppose, you know, you could say that his role is pretty similar in there, is pretty similar to the one indeed he vacated to go and play at centre-half, is be combative, break the play up. When you win it, give it. You've got Tielemans alongside him, who I thought had a really good game. And I think that two-man midfield, that two-man holding midfield suits Tielemans because he can see everything in front of him. We know he's got a great passing range, and he keeps the game flowing. And we've seen that today. So them two work really well alongside each other today. And Dennis Pratt, you know, we spoke about it again off air, that it was probably, that's the first time I can remember seeing Dennis Pratt playing that number 10 role. But, you know, credit where credit's due. You know, Brendan obviously sees him every day in training. So who am I to question, you know, Brendan's, you know, playing him in that role? And to be fair to Dennis Pratt, he came up with a gooch today. I thought he had a really good game. The timing of his runs were excellent. You know, as Tony's mentioned, and we've all seen that his ball for Castagna's goal was a really top drawer ball indeed. You know, a difficult ball as well, as I spoke about, but a really good ball. So we can be pretty pleased with his performance today.
Can you read anything into the Belgium link to that goal, Jerry, in terms of standing it up at the back post, maybe knowing he was there, or was that just something that you might have seen?
No, I think, as I said to you before, when you're in that position where a ball's been played through, going towards the byline, you've got one or two options. Tony mentioned the one where you just whip it in with as much pace as possible and hope it gets a ricochet, or someone makes an near post run and gets a little flick on it. Or the more dangerous ball is the one where you clip it to the back post. And they're the only two options really that you have, because invariably you're stretching for the ball. And you haven't got enough time to try and, you know, manufacture you know, a little whippy, curly, whatever you want to call it, or even you haven't got enough, because you're stretching for it, you can't drag it back to the penalty spot. So the only two things you can do is put pace on it near post or clip it. So whether or not that's made, I know it was made and finished in Belgium, but whether or not there was a bit of psychology, a bit of psyche going on, I very much doubt it. I think it was just good play, great play from Dennis Pratt, and clever play from Castagna, realising that he'd no one to mark, he'd no one to chase down, and he'd all that room on the right-hand side, and he thought, I'm going to take a gamble and see what happens.
Final thoughts from you then, Tony. Leicester will be very, very happy with that win this evening.
Yeah, they will, and you know, I think when we hear from Brendan, I'm sure he'll be saying how pleased he was with the performance. He'll echo what we said. It was a difficult start to the match, but I think after the first 20 minutes, Leicester totally and utterly dominated possession, passing of the ball, chances created, chances on target, goals scored. Every single stat you come up with after 20 minutes of that game, Leicester were well on top, and it's a great credit to everyone at Leicester, and it's a great credit to the squad as well, because, you know, we know there's injuries, we know there's suspensions, and there's good players to come back into the team. But, you know, you want Mendy being the perfect example, someone who comes into the team, does his role, knows his role, and gives a performance for the team. And I think Brendan will be just as pleased with those fringe players that have come in, you know, as he will be with the established professionals like Jamie Vardy and, you know, as we said, Kasper Schmeichel. I think he could have come and sat with us and watched the game. He just didn't need him in goal. Like, it was that good and dominating performance in the second half. So Brendan will be very, very pleased. But let's not get carried away. It's only one game. It is 3 points. It's a great start, clean sheet, etc. But it is the first game, and there's no point in doing that, and then you then fall down against Burnley next week.
Well, thank you very much to Jerry Taggart and to Tony Cottee. Tony joins us again tomorrow evening for Extra Time. You can tune into that one at 5:45. We're followed immediately by the development squad, who are also in action. For post-match reaction from the Hawthorns, all you need to do is head to our social media channels and to lcfc.com again to watch those. But it was 3 goals, 3 points, 2 goals for Jamie Vardy and a debutant on the score sheet. It was a pretty perfect afternoon for the Foxes.